this decision. He insists that he's not under pressure to drop these cases and that we should hasten slowly in declaring President Mahama as a clearing agent. So that's the justification he's been providing. Amongst others, he says that President Mahama has not been briefed on the cases he has dropped just yet. And he says he took the decisions to drop the cases on his own accord, and says he will hold a meeting with the OSP also to formally brief him about his pursuit of Ken Ofori-Atta. That's the question that my colleague Kenneth JC posed to him on what his thoughts are on the OSP and his pursuit of Ken Ofori-Atta. He's also been saying that Collins Dauda was accused of misapplying $200 million in the Saglemi housing project, when in fact it was only $90 million that was used for that particular project. He's been outlining them case by case and giving the justification as to why he had to drop the case. And he also mentioned that in actual fact, in the Litovit case, that's the Opuni Seydou Agongo case, he talks about that fertilizer and the fact that Stephen Opuni was accused of purchasing an untested fertilizer, which they say ended up in causing financial loss to the state, for which reason he was being prosecuted, and insists that no farmer was invited to testify whether the fertilizers were effective or not, and insists that it turns out that the farmers actually said Litovit fertilizer was effective and helped grow their yields. So he wonders why Stephen Opuni and the rest were pursued in that particular case. And he also goes on to say there were not enough evidence in some of the cases he dropped by the prosecution pressed on, and also insists that in the case of former chairman of the NDC, Semolofu Swampofu, for instance, that case was politically motivated. And he says the conduct of some judges in the cases also, in the cases dropped, were also very questionable. In the case of Ato Forcing also, he mentions that it was a political witch hunt, for which reason they had to drop the cases. That's the Attorney General, Dominic Ayine, there providing justification for these cases that he dropped, and mentions that these were the reasons why they had to do so. And we've been bringing in some other questions that my colleague Kenneth JC posed to him, and he's been providing answers to it. We're dying to hear from the former Attorney General also on this, but we'll get some views of some lawyers also on this particular matter. And then much later also, at least, we'll squeeze in and bring you some other stories as well. That crossfire over the whereabouts of former Finance Minister Ken Ofori-Atta, as a special prosecutor declares him wanted and a fugitive from justice. This has sparked a huge debate in Parliament as we speak, and members of Parliament are still debating this particular issue on whether the special prosecutor was right in doing what he did. Already we've heard from lawyer Ansar Sari, and he wants the special prosecutor to resign because for him it does appear that this is an exercise in futility. We'll also get to hear from some Ghanaians as they applaud government's decision to scale down the National Independence Day celebration, moving the parade from the Black Star Square to the Jubilee House to reduce costs. We'll get to hear from some Ghanaians on this particular matter. But let's start off and hear some excerpts from the just ended press conference by the Attorney General as we bring in some lawyers on this on this particular matter. You can listen to the Attorney General insisting that those of you who are declaring President Mahama as a clearing agent to hasten slowly in doing so, because all these decisions or the series of Nolle Prosequi that has been filed by his office are solely his decision as the Attorney General.
Ladies and gentlemen of the media, fellow countrymen and women, I wish to make it abundantly clear that I did not take these decisions lightly. As I indicated above, I consulted widely and reviewed the files diligently before coming to a decision on each of the cases. You would note that in some cases, such as the Snake case and the banking cases, I withdrew the charges against some of the accused persons, while others are still under consideration. I am keenly aware of the need to balance the public interest, in this case, against the interests and rights of the accused persons. Also, as Attorney General, I take absolute responsibility for all the decisions so far taken. I am not under any instructions or pressure to discontinue any case or to bring charges against anyone. Those who are in a haste to tag His Excellency the President of the Republic as a clearing agent should hasten slowly, because he is not responsible for prosecutions and has not directed me to drop any case. Moreover, with the exception of one charge of bribery in the Opuni matter, in respect of which, no evidence was laid, none of the persons affected by my decision so far has looted state resources. There is a gulf of difference between the offense of causing financial loss to the state or misapplication of state funds and the offenses of bribery, corruption, or that of using public office for private gain. In the latter offenses, the individual charge can be accurately labeled as looters. In the former, it will be thoroughly unfair and actually defamatory to label the accused persons who have, as people who have looted state resources. So I thank you very much. These are the reasons for my decisions, and I will now take questions if there are any. Thank you.
That's Dominic Ayine. He's the Attorney General that just ended a press conference. Let's get some brief reactions, immediate reactions to this particular justification that the Attorney General has been giving. And he insists that these decisions are solely his and that the President is not the one declaring these Nolle Prosequi, or he's not under any pressure to drop these cases. So if you are one of those who are hastening in declaring President Mahama as a clearing agent for him, he wants you to hasten slowly, because in fact he is yet to actually brief the president fully on these Nolle Prosequis that he's filed. Let me hear briefly from Mr. Vitus Azim. He's an anti-corruption campaigner, and he's been following this particular press conference and the justifications provided by the Attorney General, even though many lawyers had mentioned that he was not under any obligation to provide the justification for filing these Nolle Prosequis on behalf of the state. Mr. Azim, thank you so much for joining us here on Newsnight. I bet you've been following the press conference by the Attorney General. Your immediate reaction?
Well, this is in response to some of us. We called on the Attorney General to come out and explain why he decided to drop those cases. And I believe it's in the right direction. Even if you, the Attorney General, you have taken over and you still the docket, you don't find any basis to continue with the case. You don't waste your resources going to court to fight the case that you know you cannot even defend. So I think it's in the right direction. There's no problem with this.
But on a case-by-case basis, the justification he provides for the case for the former chairman of the NDC, Samuel Fusampofu, for instance, he says it was politically motivated. In the case of the finance minister, he describes it as a witch hunt. In the Opuni case, amongst others, or in the Collins Dowda case, all of them, the Snit case, he mentions that it does appear that it was just sort of a witch hunt of these persons. Is that enough justification?
No, I don't think that's enough justification. I'm not a lawyer, but I think that the problem was he should just to say that one, he himself was not convinced about the evidence that they had provided, and so he was not in a position to appear as Attorney General and prosecute these people. He didn't have enough evidence on his hands. I think that was the best approach for him. Not to talk about, you cannot prove that it was politically motivated. I don't think so.
Well, so you would have wanted more explanation or more evidence when it comes to that explanation that he gave, that these cases were just a witch hunt or politically motivated.
Yes, because the fact that the person is a politically exposed person does not necessarily mean that the case against the person is politically motivated. I don't think so. Besides, if that was the case, why don't you allow the case to get to an end so that the court will say, no, we cannot find any credible evidence against this person, so he's hereby discharged and the matter drops. Especially
so, at least he mentions
coming to
those
office
who are
just less than 2 months,
quick enough to say that President
Mahama
is becoming a clearing agent or is already a clearing agent. That justification he provides, that this decision is solely his decision, that suffices now, doesn't it?
No, I was talking when you also talked, so can you repeat that?
I'm asking about the clearing agent's description of President Mahama, that people have already started describing him as such because of the Nolle Prosequi. And you've heard the Attorney General mention that these decisions are solely his decision. He was not under pressure by President Mahama to actually declare these cases and Nolle Prosequi.
You know, I think I have said that
these cases. For you, that suffices. Is that enough reason for us not to declare President Mahama as a clearing agent? It does appear that I've lost Vitus Azim there on this particular issue, but we are taking reactions briefly on this. But of course, this is a discussion that has just started, and you've heard the Attorney General provide, justification and reasoning for the number of Nolle Prosequi that has been filed in the case of Stephen Opuni, in the case of Collins Dowda in the Saglami case, in the case of Atufo Singh and Richard Jakpa, and of course in that ambulance case, we've heard Stephen Opuni and Seydou Agongo in the fertilizer case, and Samuel Ofusu-Ampofo as well. He's also been addressing the issue of the special prosecutor and his declaration of former Finance Minister Ken Ofori-Atta as a fugitive. And he says he's hoping to engage the OSP further on this matter to give him further reasons as to why this is happening. I've been telling you that this particular case has generated a lot of talk also in Parliament. It's a heated debate as we speak, and we'll get to my colleague Kwekwa Sante shortly on this particular matter. In fact, that debate that has ensued in Parliament. Let me take quick remarks from my colleague Kenneth Jesse, who was at that press conference, joins us on the line with further updates on this particular press conference. Really, tell us more about what we may have missed. At least we heard the Attorney General in the full justification of some of these cases. What really is the talk amongst those who were present at this press conference?
Well, he also spoke about Collins Dowda, who was involved in the Agleni housing project, where he was accused by the state of embezzling funds in excess of $200 million. The Attorney General did indicate that just was $90 million, and based on that, they couldn't really prosecute him on a wrongful figure. And in fact, his predecessor, or the person who succeeded him, also spent $5 million, but it never came up until the issue was sent to court. He also spoke about the Stephen Opuni case, where he was accused of causing financial loss to the state after buying tested fertilizers, and it ended up that the fertilizers were good fertilizers because the farmers did indicate that it helped grow their yields. He's also talked about the fact that some judges, the postures of some judges in so many cases were questionable. He also accused President Akufo-Addo of being a clearing agent. Of course, he has accused President John Mahama that he is not a clearing agent because he's not even in the known of these cases. But with President Akufo-Addo, for instance, when he left the power, voluntarily resigned after so many cases came against her, the president sort of wrote a love letter to Cecilia the power that, my dear Cecilia, I hope that you are exonerated. And then he also touched briefly on the special prosecutor, what the special prosecutor said today about the former finance minister, Ken Ofori-Atta, with him being wanted. He said that the office of the special prosecutor is under the Attorney General's department, and he will officially invite the special prosecutor to brief him on really what the situation is, why he's being wanted, and so on. And he's also talked about the fact that with the oral report that he's received, they're going to peruse all of them and start prosecution as soon as possible, although he doesn't give any definite time that prosecution is going to begin. But he says it's going to be case-by-case basis. They're going to peruse all of them. The ones that deserve to be prosecuted, they're going to prosecute them. He also talked about the 2020 and 2024 election killings, which the IGP is investigating. He says that as soon as the docket is made available, they're also going to look into that. So he touched on a number of these cases.
Okay, well, that's my colleague Kennedy, and of course he touches on the judges that were sitting on this particular case. Briefly though, what exactly were his comments in that regard?
Well, he did indicate that some of the judges behaved in ways that were a bit questionable, and that some of the judges were even promoted when they were sitting on some cases. Some judges were also transferred And he says that if you are sitting on a certain case, if we see that you are this judge and you are sitting on this case and you are promoted or transferred, it appears that they want you to be recused from the case or give you a promotion for whatever it is that you may have done to end that. So, I mean, he also touched on the fact that the former Attorney General, who he succeeded, also interfered with a key witness in the Richard Jaffa and Afro Forcing case. He described that as a very bad example that he set. So he's accused some of the judges of having questionable character in dealing with the cases, and also accused the former Attorney General of interfering with key witnesses in the Richard Jaffa and Afro Forcing case.
Okay, that's my colleague Kenneth Jesse there, bringing us up to speed on some of the issues that came up at that press conference. But let's take more reactions, immediate reactions to this. Of course, this is going to generate a lot of talk as we go along the line. But private legal practitioner Alfred Papadakwa also joins us on the line on this. We are grateful for your time here on Newsnight. I bet you've been monitoring the justification provided by the Attorney General for the number of Nolle Prosequi filed, which has generated a lot of talk. What will be your immediate reaction to the justification you've heard him provide?
Hello, good evening, and good evening to your listeners. This is the first time that we have an Attorney General who has found it reasonable to give us reasons why he wants to discontinue, or he has discontinued the prosecution of a case. I mean, on the face of it, it's a good thing, and this is something that should be encouraged. With regard to the justification given, we do not have the benefit of reading the whole file that he reviewed. But, I mean, if the Attorney General does not believe in a particular course of action, I don't think we should expect the Attorney General to prosecute the case. So for us, or for me, I think that we will need time to interrogate these justifications and see whether they are reasonable or not. That one, he cannot take it away from us. But the first thing that we need to say is that we are all encouraged by this show of transparency by the new Attorney General.
But one justification that runs through is political witch hunt. You agree?
Well, in respect of which cases?
He talks about the Ofusu-Ampofo case, talks about the Atoforsen case, mentions also about the Collins Dowda case, that the amount that was involved, 90 million, yet he was being tried for 200 million, amongst others. All these justifications provided.
Well, these probably could be lapses that he has identified in the prosecution of the case. Now, if you are prosecuting an individual and upon a review you realize there are lapses, I don't think once the Nolle Prosequi goes off, it does not mean that the accused can go free. For instance, with regard to the difference in figures, the differences in figures that he stated, well, I think that any Attorney General who sees this can discontinue, get the right figures, and resume prosecution. I do not think that alone should be enough to totally halt the prosecution. So if there are factors that you think that at this particular moment you will be unable to prosecute because, or you will not be able to prove your case beyond reasonable doubt, and you think that there are other factors that will also assist you in doing that, you discontinue and resume prosecution at a convenient time. That will not amount to witch hunting.
Okay. Well, thank you so much for your initial comments on this. Alfred Papadakwa is private legal practitioner, and we've been talking about the special prosecutor and Ken Ofori-Atta also. And this, the special prosecutor has drawn anger of NPP minority in Parliament after that declaration of former Finance Minister Ken Ofori-Atta as a wanted man. They've been a lot of reactions to this. Of course, the Attorney General says he will be engaging further with the Special Prosecutor Kissie Jabing to get more facts about this particular case. But Kweku Asante joins us on the line, our Parliamentary Affairs correspondent. He's been monitoring that debate in Parliament, joins us on the line with more. What exactly are the concerns when it comes to this particular matter?
Well, when it comes to this debate and this conversation on the floor, which literally took all the time of Parliament, the MPP.
Oh dear, I just lost my colleague Kweku Asante on the line, and that's our Parliamentary Affairs correspondent. It does appear that I have a technical challenge with the phone lines, but of course, we've been hearing from both sides of the House on this particular matter. Let's see, do we have Kweku Asante back on the line? Kweku, we lost you briefly. Take it off from where you left.
I was making the point that this was a statement that was delivered by Habib Idrisu, the first Deputy Minority Whip, and he made the point that the MPP believes strongly that the Special Prosecutor is actuated by partisan considerations and that he has no basis in law or in fact to actually declare the former Finance Minister Ken Ofori-Atta as a wanted man, and that Ken Ofori-Atta did in fact seek the permission and authorization of the former Chief of Staff and the current Chief of Staff to actually go out there and seek medical attention for something that has been bothering him for some time now. They do not understand how the Special Prosecutor will address a news conference despite the former Finance Minister having written to him through his lawyers to make these facts known to him. But the NDC side in particular have been hitting back. Some of them have been recounting what happened to them in the past when state security officers raided their homes at midnight with guns to actually press them to supply certain documents. And then said that while they do not condone what might have happened yesterday, of course, some of them say they will wait for some time to get information as to what exactly happened at Mr. Ken Ofori-Atta's home. They do believe that the Special Prosecutor is close with the power to do what he's doing. So this literally became a political footballing with all the speakers from both sides taking partisan positions, with the NPP accusing the Special Prosecutor of being partisan, while the NDC have said that he should be allowed to do his job.
Well, so that's it. But we have any conclusion on this matter, at least from on the side of the Speaker or leadership of the House when it comes to this kind of OSP issue?
First, Mahama Ega has committed to investigate what exactly might have happened. He said he will find out from the National Security Architecture on what legal or lawful basis they may have gone to the former Finance Minister's home, and on what basis did they search the property of the former Finance Minister. He has said he will do that. He was the first Deputy Speaker who presided up until the end of the debate on the floor. He did make the point that a Special Prosecutor, as created by an act of Parliament, does have the power to engage in the business he has been doing so far, and that Parliament should not be seen to be prejudicing the work that a Special Prosecutor is doing by making comments that would suggest that a Special Prosecutor does not have the power to do to take the kind of action he has already taken. So from the side of the Deputy Speaker, he has only an admonition to both sides of the House to allow the Special Prosecutor to do his job, and ultimately if this matter end up in court, the judges will have the final say.
Thank you very much. That's Parliamentary Affairs correspondent Kweku Asante. We'll take the final reaction to the Attorney General's press conference a while ago from Lawyer Ansasari. He's a former Ghana School of Law director. We are grateful for your time here in Newsnight. We've been hearing you on the polls this afternoon touch on this issue between the OSP and the former Finance Minister. You've been asking for the resignation of the OSP or the Special Prosecutor. That's another matter that we'll come to much later. But you've been hearing from the Attorney General provided justification for the series of Nolle Prosequi that he's filed. What you heard satisfies you? Sorry?
I heard it really a few minutes ago. The legal position is that when the Attorney General or when an Attorney General does enter a Nolle Prosequi, he thereby expresses his unwillingness or the unwillingness of the office of the Attorney General to prosecute any criminal case he's handling. Now, once the Attorney General enters the Nolle Prosequi, that terminates further proceedings. He need not assign any reason. That is the law.
But there were calls on him to do so. There were calls on him to do so.
He doesn't have to give any reason. He doesn't have to bow to public pressure. It is unnecessary. The law is that once there's an entry of a Nolle Prosequi, it shows the Attorney General or the Office of the Criminal Prosecutor saying that he is no longer interested in any further prosecution. The law, as we inherited it from England on 24th July 1874, has not been modified. The Attorney General need not give any reason. Once he embarks on assigning reasons, he is going to find himself in all sorts of trouble and problems. And he doesn't have to.
You won't even make excuses for public interest cases like the ones that he filed the Nolle Prosequi for.
Every criminal case is of public interest. The law is just one. There are no two sets of laws. One for high-profile cases and another for the ordinary person. The law has always been that the Attorney General can bring criminal proceedings to an end by the entry of a Nolle Prosequi, that I am no longer willing to prosecute. The reasons he may give may be political, the reason may be social, the reason may be religious, but the law says he need not give.
Okay.
If the law says the Attorney General need not give a reason, it doesn't mean that if he wants to give reasons, he cannot. He is not disabled thereby from assigning reasons, but he ought not give any reason.
Okay.
That has been my understanding of the law from my student days till today. He need not give. He shouldn't bow to public pressure.
Okay. Okay. We are grateful. Thanks for your initial comments on this. That's Lawyer Ansah Asare, former Ghana School of Law director, on this. His reaction to this, of course, from the very onset, the lawyers had mentioned that there was no need for justification or reason for the Nolle Prosequi that had been entered by the Attorney General. There were calls on him to do so, and he's been providing these justifications this evening at that press conference. And I see already a flyer out. There's a press conference scheduled for tomorrow. Maybe, you never know, we may hear from the former Attorney General. But George, there's a lot happening on the business front. We need to hear from you.
Of course, the Attorney General has also been justifying his decision to withdraw the charge against the current Bank of Ghana Governor, Dr. Johnson. I'll be getting you more details on that one. A new Managing Director of SIC Insurance, James Nimboateng, promises to leverage on his political network to recover lost market and also rewrite the previous wrongs as he formally takes over today as Managing Director of the institution. The business news on Newsnight is brought to you by MTN Business. Welcome to the new world of business. Kingdom Books and Stationery, your number one stop shop for all your office essentials, Sinter's tanks and Pepsodent Herbal and charcoal. Let's now settle for the details. Now, Attorney General Dominic Ayine has justified decision to withdraw all charges against the current governor of the Bank of Ghana, Dr. Johnson Isiama. Government over the years has been trying to prosecute Dr. Isiama for causing financial loss to the state. Now, this was due to some 300 million Ghana cedis granted to Universal Merchant Bank and role played in the collapse of UT Bank and Unibank. Now, speaking amid the press event in Accra, the Attorney General noted that there was basically no case to answer based on facts before him.
In two of the banking trials still ongoing, I took the decision to withdraw the charges against Mr. Johnson Pundit Asiama for the simple reason that in the course of my review of the cases, my attention was drawn to an internal memo prepared by the Prosecution Division of our department for the attention of the former Attorney General, the Honorable Godfrey Adame, which recommended that the charges against him be dropped. This is very significant.
And that is the Attorney General Dominic Ayine. Now, the World Bank has cautioned Ghana of any consideration for a return to the international capital market. The bank, in its Ghana Public Financial Review report, revealed that Ghana's expenditure grew faster than its GDP from 2010 to 2022, with 70% of it dedicated to public wages, interest payments, and also some statutory funds. Meanwhile, the World Bank Country Director Robert Alisio is asking government to strengthen its fiscal discipline. He's been speaking at the launch of the report in Accra today.
As a point of history, Ghana has requested a record of 17 IMF programs, and as a result, the country has been in IMF programs for 40 out of its 68 years of history. So I think this does drive home the point about not returning to business as usual, but moving on. A premature return to international capital markets could send the wrong signal and reverse unsustainable, and also a reversal to unsustainable borrowing costs. I think it's critically important at this juncture in Ghana's history from the World Bank perspective that it sends strong signals about credible reforms and including structural reforms going forward. That would be the really great signal to send.
Robert Alisio is the country director for the World Bank. Now, the new managing director of SIC Insurance, James Ayine, is promising to leverage on this political network and partners to help the firm recover the lost market. Now, Mr. Ayine at the program today formally took over as boss of the institution. He noted that they will work hard to recover SIC's lost market.
I know that you've broken your back, you've given your best, but the forces obviously were said that you could not have done much about those things. At this point in time, we have absolute backing from the highest levels to turn that tide. I'm counting on your support, your cooperation. So yes, while I may not come here as an insurer, I come here with a lot of political leverage that we can fall on to right some of those wrongs that have gone on over the last 8 years. So I know that corporate governance is key. I will be interested in following all the corporate governance processes, running an open and transparent administration. We'll operate with the highest standards of integrity, accountability, corporate governance, professionalism. These are things that are dear to me. I mean, if you know me, a bit about me, I'm not a very disruptive person.
And that is the new managing director of SIC Insurance, James Ayine, speaking at a program where he formally took over as the boss of that insurance firm. And that's all for business.
I wanted to hear the congratulations to James Ayine. Is in order that
congratulations James Ayine as the new managing director of SIC Insurance.
Well, we'll take a quick break and then I hand you over to Strong and Sassy, of course, because of the live coverage. We've had to truncate Newsnight. I am MFA Pau. There's more when you log on to myjohnline.com. And Strong and Sassy is Valentine's Day. And we're talking about expectations. Why some people ghost others during this time of the year. Well, we'll take a quick break and then Akofa and the team will get to stay.
Reasons why we connect each